All right, everyone, well, welcome back to another episode of Aurora Airwaves, where we talk about creative recovery, artistic discovery, self-development, and healing. I'm here with one of my old professors, Juliet Giglio. Professor Juliet Giglio is at SUNY Oswego, where she's a screenwriting professor. She was my mentor for many years, while in school, after school, and we've still stayed in touch 12 years later. Not only is she an accomplished professor, but she's a screenwriter and a novelist now. So I've just been so excited to bring you on the podcast once I got my gears going and built my systems so I could, hear all about your journey and share that with everyone who's listening. So, Juliet, why don't you introduce us a little bit? Tell us about your work and where you're at now.
Thank you so much. And honestly, Jordan, you were one of my favorite students from way back when. I think you were one of my first students in the very first year that I taught at SUNY Oswego when I was very much the accidental professor because it's a career that I sort of fell into. I had been a screenwriter in Hollywood for 20 years. And then in 2011, we moved to upstate New York and I taught for a year at Syracuse as an adjunct. And then when there was an opportunity to jump over to SUNY Oswego, I did. And I have to say, I love teaching. And what's been so interesting about my journey for teaching and writing is that my writing has actually improved and I've become more prolific once I started teaching and became a professor. Because what I found is that every day that I was in the classroom and I'm like, Jordan, do this, or like, Melina, do this, Elmer, do this. And then I would go home and work on my own stuff and realize I wasn't following my own instructions
Ah,
for my students. And this was a real epiphany on my part. And I saw at that point, I actually did start to improve my writing. And it's interesting because when I moved to upstate New York, at that point, I already had four credits, film, screenwriting credits, and I'd worked a lot and had totally made my living as a screenwriter.
pretty good
And
credits, though, I should say.
yeah, some okay ones. Yeah, I was the first person on Tarzan. Also returned to Halloweentown. Also a movie I loved called Pizza My Heart, which is a remake of Romeo and Juliet, but with two rival pizzeria families in New Jersey. And then another movie called Noah, which is based on Noah's Ark, which I also loved, which was on ABC Family and did really well on the ratings for them. But at this point, when I moved to upstate New York, I kind of thought I was done. I was like, I'm done. It's
Oh,
okay. I had a good career. I'm done. I'd already aged out because once you hit 40 in LA, you feel like really old and you've like aged out. And it felt like a good time to jump in my 40s and I did and I thought I was done. And then the irony was in 2000, let's see, late 2017, my dad started watching all these Christmas movies on, on Hallmark and Lifetime. And he said to me, and also my husband, who's my longtime writing partner, he goes, you guys should be writing these Christmas movies. And we were like, interesting, because the Christmas movies are basically rom-coms, you know?
mhm.
Girl meets guy, girl wants guy, she loses guy, she gets guy in the end. And literally 3 weeks later, we're talking about January 2018, we were pitching to Paula Hart, who is a great producer and also the mother of Melissa Joan Hart. And we pitched her this one idea we had for a Christmas movie. She loved it. And a day later, 2 days later, we were pitching at Lifetime. And it was
That's a fast
incredible how
turnaround.
quickly it happened. Yeah. And Lifetime loved it. And then literally like 10 days later, they said, yes, we love it. We greenlit it. We want you to write it. We were writing that movie while we were still teaching, because my husband teaches at Syracuse, I'm at SUNY Oswego, and we were literally writing that movie. And it was crazy how fast it happened, doing all the rewrites in May. They filmed it in late May in Mystic, Connecticut. Things never
Okay.
happened that quickly before. And it
No.
was on the air in November.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's still one of my favorite movies because it's basically it's a little bit of Elf, it's a little bit of Splash. Melissa Joan Hart falls in love with a nutcracker who turns into a real guy, and he's lovely, played by Barry Watson. And it's a really lovely, sweet, fun movie, and so proud of it. Lots of great actors. And that led to more. So I could talk a lot,
A lot
Jordan,
more.
sorry.
Like,
And
no, I mean,
so,
it seemed like every year you were cracking these out for a while, and now you've
yeah, that was
you're a
very typical.
novelist. I mean, that's
Right.
the other shock.
And so that movie, when we were on the set for, let's see, it was called A Very Nutty Christmas. And that was our original title, and they kept it. And we were on the set with that. We were like, Melissa, Paula, what else do you want to do? And Melissa said, oh my gosh, I would love to do
Oh.
a movie that takes place at a ski resort. And we're like, we've got that. Did we have it? No. We did not have it, but we found it and we figured it out, and that movie became Christmas Reservations, and it's a very fun movie. It's kind of zany. It takes place at a ski resort, and they filmed it in Lake Tahoe with real snow, which is, if you know anything about Christmas movies, is a big
That's
deal because it's mostly
mhm.
like fake snow, and it was a lovely movie with all these subplots, including this great subplot about an Indian grandma, Dottie, who has come to America to show her daughter around colleges. And of course, she wants her to go to like the best of the best. And she meets this boy who works at the resort. And the boy is actually going to Dartmouth, my alma mater. And the grandmother's like, "Oh, that's a great school." And I'm like, "Yes." But the funny thing about that movie was it did really well in India, and it is shown very well in India. And that movie led to two other movies. One was called Dear Christmas, which was also great. And we had no sooner, like, the ink was dry, if the ink can be dry on the computer, when COVID hit. We're talking March
Mm.
2020. And we suddenly were worried, oh my gosh, they're not going to be able to make this movie because, of course, it was like a big movie with lots of extras and lots of plot. And we said, and I remember the producer, Paula, came to us and said, could you, could we try to simplify this in some way and still have the heart of the story? And here again was a
Wow.
great opportunity for us to really focus on character and less so on the plot. And I honestly think the script became better as a result of that. And we made it so instead of going to the big Christmas party, we saw Melissa Joan Hart making drinks with her love interest. I'm going to blank. Anyway, her love interest in the kitchen. And we hear the party, but we don't see it. And we see them making
Hmm.
drinks together, the fun, like Cosmo drinks with the candy canes. And
That's
then
a challenge.
later, it is. And then
Wow.
later, when she was supposed to go to the fireman's ball, she's late and she gets there and he's
Yeah.
waited for her and they're all alone. And it's very sweet. And there were things like that we did throughout the script. And as a result, that script, I believe, was the second or third film that was actually went into production that summer of 2020 because it was very difficult to film at that time because everyone was masked and you had to go through a whole process to even bring people to set. So that one did well. And then the fourth movie that we did with Lifetime was called Christmas in Tune. And this movie we wrote with Reba in mind, and it was one of those things where sometimes you wish for it and you get it. And we got
You
Reba,
did.
and that was amazing. And Reba was great, and John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard was great,
Hmm.
and the actress from The Vampire Diaries was wonderful, and there were some really great actors and great songs, and that was lovely. And during that period, so because we were on Zoom teaching classes, and at this point we were just like I was working nonstop, and at this point there was an agent at WME who reached out to us who said, "I really love your movies. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And we kind of scratched our head and we're like, "No, haven't, but that's a good idea." And she said, "Great. Well, let me know if you have any ideas." And this is classic for us because we had like one idea, one, and we had one idea for a book. And so we met her in New York at a coffee shop and we pitched her this one idea we had for a book. And she goes, "I love that." And we're like, "Really?" And she goes, "Okay." So, and we're like, "Well, we haven't written a novel before. We don't, not sure how this works." And normally in the process of a novel, you need to write the whole book. And we were
Mm-hmm.
kind of gun shy of that. So we said, what if we write a few chapters? And she said, great, why don't you write 3 chapters and then give me the summaries for what's going to happen in the rest of the book. Now, this is really unusual because typically you only do this for nonfiction. You don't do it for fiction. Fiction, you need
Mm-hmm.
to write the whole book, then you edit it a few times, and then your agent will take it out. But in
Yeah.
this case, without what the heck, what do we have to lose? And we were, I should say, we were writing in the wheelhouse. We were writing in the Christmas world, right? This is what we already had 4 movies,
Mm-hmm.
or we knew we were going to have another 2 movies coming out at that point. And she took it out, and sure enough, Sourcebooks loved the idea, and Sourcebooks said, "Great, except we want not 1 but 2 books." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay, now I have to come up with another idea." So we wrote the first book, which is The Summer of Christmas, which is basically about, again, write what you know, the making of a Christmas movie, and it's a love
Mm-hmm.
story, and it's about a screenwriter. So we took all those things we knew and kind of all the quirks that we had observed when we would go visit the set for our various Christmas movies. And that book was a lot of fun, and it was interesting to write with a partner though, because most people don't write a novel with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
People, sure, there's plenty of partnerships for screenwriting, and I think that works really well, but not for novels. And so we had our work cut out for us. And what we did, Jordan, is, sorry, I'm not letting you have a word in edgewise. What we did was
No,
we
it's
outlined
fantastic.
it. Yeah, we outlined it just like we would a movie. And when Jordan was in my class and I taught intermediate screenwriting, I still teach it the same way. We always card it out and we look at it as like 40 cards or 8 sequences
My cards are
or
usually
three
on that
acts.
wall. I took them
Oh
down
my God.
recently to put a corkboard up to like so it wasn't watching me sleep and
Oh
walk
yeah.
around. But I
Oh
normally
yeah.
have those cards up still. They work.
Love that. I love that. I really think it works, and it's interesting because I've since entering the novel writing world, I've learned about this term, and people will say, "Are you a prancer or a planter?" Wait, I'm getting it wrong. So
Oh yeah,
one version is
answer.
pantser or a prancer, and one means that you outline, and the other way is that you just like, oh, I'm just going to jump in and start writing.
Yeah.
And what I know from screenwriting is you can't just jump in and start writing; it doesn't work, and I never advise that. And so I think I took that same kind of ethos to writing. We took that same ethos to writing a book because let's be honest, if you look at a book, if most books are like say 350 pages or so, 90 pages in, 1/4 of the way in, you hit your essentially your end of first act moment.
Mhm.
And once you realize that you start to kind of know where to go with a book. And then halfway through the book, around 180 pages, you have this big midpoint. Something huge happens, as we know from screenwriting. And then you inevitably, in a fiction book, you always can kind of tell where the end of Act Two is, where suddenly things go wrong. Like after they've kind of been like fallen, everything been great, everyone's in love, the career's going great, the kids love you, whatever it is, and then boom, things are bad, and then you have to build yourself back up, and then you have the resolution. So what my husband and I did when we were trying to figure out how to write our first book was we outlined it just like a screenplay. And then what we did was we put it all into an Excel doc and we figured out what our 40 cards were, aka our 40 scenes. And we realized that if each scene had 2,000 words, we would hit the 80,000 word mark, which is what you need for a novel. And that's what we did. And so we would go every other. And so let's say he would start with the first chapter, I would do the second. We would each
Okay.
write that, and then we would share them, edit each other's work, and then flip it and then go on. And what we discovered too is, unlike screenwriting and novel writing, we sort of started to invent a few extra characters as we went along. So let's say I remember this was summer or Christmas, in writing chapter 5. I remember I invented this whole new character of the caterer, like the hot caterer named JB, and he was a French caterer who was like really wanted to be a big chef. He'd gone to like the CIA school, and instead he'd found out he sort of fell into like catering for filmmaking, and it was really lucrative, and he just couldn't get out of it, right? And so he falls in love with one of the side characters. And I remember telling my husband, I'm like, hey, you should know in this last chapter, I just invented this JB character. And he goes, great. He goes, I can pick up on that. And so that's how we would do it. And then he
That's
suddenly,
great.
he followed in JB. And likewise, we did things like that. And so by the end, I want to say it was fairly seamless. And our family joked initially, they said when they were reading it, like we have a big family, and everyone's like, oh, I bet I can read, I bet I can tell you what Juliet wrote, and I bet I can tell you what Keith wrote. And I'm like, we're like, hmm. And they really couldn't because we had
That's good.
rewritten each other enough that we tried to make it kind of seamless. However, I will say that it was still kind of written a little bit like a movie. And so we were still in that learning curve. And I think we got better by the second book. And now the funny thing is we're each writing our own books now for our third book
Oh,
because yeah,
interesting.
and
Okay.
our agent's excited about both of them, which is nice. And but now we're doing our own thing. So we'll see. But we're still writing movies together, and we have another Christmas movie that's out there, and I can't talk about it yet, but we'll see what happens with that. So yeah. So that
So
is
are
the
these,
long, long story around all of this. And I'm
I
still
mean, that's
teaching
fantastic.
screenwriting. And I still like to tell my students, you're going home and you're doing this assignment for me, but guess what? I'm also going home tonight and I'm going to be writing too. And I've got a deadline too. I'm just like you. Right. And
Yeah.
I like to think that makes them feel better. Right. So
I
that's
mean,
my
that's what we
long,
felt
long
from day
story.
one.
Yeah. Oh,
we
you
we
did?
felt that. Yeah, no, I mean,
Hmm.
even like Elmer and I were reflecting on it. Like, you had this attitude, and you still do, of like, I want to do cool stuff, and that's what we're gonna do. Like, we're not gonna waste our time doing other things. So, like, here are the skills you need to do that thing. Let's all put out the best ideas. I mean, I remember us all having three ideas that we pitched to the class, and then the class kind of chimed in with where they thought the energy was, and that was just awesome because it was this participation that was like, what do you actually want to do? Not what's going to sell or, what's going to be the best indie script, which those are also good lessons. I mean, I learned those the hard way. Um,
Those are true. And I always like, we still do that assignment, although now we've upgraded it. Now we put it on Google Form. And so
oh,
we project this image and students can instantly see in a pie chart, like it's an instant visual, like what was the most popular idea. And you
that's
can, I
cool.
always love seeing people's eyes and they're like, ooh, I don't really want to write that. But I like to tell students at the end of the day, it's your name on the script. And so
Yeah.
even though the class may have sparked to a certain idea, and that's not the one you want to write, it's your name that's on the script. So you should write what you want to write, but just be aware that maybe you need to improve that idea a little bit because people weren't loving it. So yeah,
So how
that's
does that
funny.
go
You
with
guys remember
students?
that. Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love,
Yeah, no, I remember like so many things about that. I remember like Elmer's Voodoo Sorcerer script, and he
oh,
remembered the
yes.
Aurora stuff, and we were just
Oh, the
like
Aurora. Oh my
making
God.
stuff happen. And it was just a really good place to be because I remember my freshman year I was like super stuck. And so that was the first semester of my sophomore year. And that was when Amy Sher was just like, you just got to go with what you're excited with. Like, you just have to take a bunch of film and writing classes and just go for it. And so luckily I had you, and
Hmm.
that's what we got. But it was very much this like, the energy was different, and that it wasn't just like some professor who had been locked away in, collegiate prison forever. Like,
Right,
you
right,
had
right.
done stuff and you were doing stuff, and you just had
Yeah.
that, you embodied it. And we were
Oh,
all
thank
like,
you.
yeah, let's do this, which is why I think I came back to you, like, for other classes, but for also other projects that had nothing to do with my course loads, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that was
Definitely.
helpful.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you. I'm so appreciative to hear that. Thank you.
What do you find about your students? Because they know that you're doing things. Are they excited? Are they jazzed by that? Or do you have a lot of the young, because a young artist is a very fragile thing, right?
Right.
And you're in this very like interesting place starting them off, and I don't exactly know what your course load is right now, if you're like seeing them to the finish line like you were, but it's a very delicate I don't know, set of scales that you have to balance. What's
It
your
is.
objective?
It is because, you have a wide range of students, and some are in the class just to have fun, and some are in the class
Mm,
because it's a requirement for cinema screen studies or creative writing. And some are in the class because they think they really want a career in this. So you kind of have to weigh that and decide what's the best way to give them feedback, because I think I've learned over the years that you can't assume that everyone wants to be a screenwriter, because they don't, and they shouldn't, because there's so many other interesting things to do in the film business, and I think that's important to know. But I also think it's really important to understand how story works. And my students that can learn how story works, they can take that anywhere. They could take that into PR. They could take that in the business world. They could take that, any aspect of filmmaking on the production side, on editing especially. And so I think that's important to know.
Hmm.
And in terms of my own students now, I've definitely evolved the courses over the years, and I think intro to screenwriting has become really solid because we focus primarily on writing short scripts. Because
Cool.
my belief really is that short scripts are a great way to learn how to write movies, and it's also a great way to, if you want to be a filmmaker, to learn how to write the script that you want to make. And
Hmm.
that's so important. And then in intermediate screenwriting, we write a brand new feature script, and it's something that I'm going to push harder on this, I think next year, but I have been pushing on it in the sense that I want people to write things that are relatable, that are low budget, high concept, that are
Hmm.
possibly something you could film if you're a filmmaker, or something that could be a calling card for you. And then finally, advanced screenwriting, I shifted over a couple years ago to having them write an original TV pilot, and
Oh,
along
okay.
with a pitch doc. And that's done really well. Although now I'm on the fence a bit about, I like to constantly keep changing things. So I'm somebody that never gets stuck, and I'm constantly evolving and changing things up, trying to improve my syllabus for my students and my class for my students, so that I never feel like, oh, it's that assignment, right? Because I don't want it to be like that.
Right.
And so I may shift back from doing the TV pilot. I mean, I'm seeing what's going on with television right now. I feel like we just went through this huge golden age of television right before, like during the pandemic, when everyone was like consuming so many streaming channels, and all that was happening, and we just craved it. We needed all of it. And suddenly we had like 500 new TV shows a year, which is a crazy amount. And then the strikes hit. And I'm sorry, I'm a member of the Writers Guild, longtime member, and but the strikes are can be a necessary evil, because without them, writers can be treated very poorly. And I'm beholden to the strikes of the past, from the 50s to the 70s to the 80s.
Hmm.
And I have life insurance thanks to that. I have great residuals
Oh,
thanks to that. I mean, I have all these perks that I wouldn't have had, because writers are treated can be treated very badly in Hollywood. So it's a great union. And then this, let's see, the strike in 2007, which was the one that got me thinking about, oh, I should become a professor. That strike,
oh, interesting.
interesting, actually helped me with all my Christmas movies, because everything we
Huh.
struck for in that thing helped me to be better paid for, in 2018, 2019. And now this
That's cool.
last strike, what I was telling my students last year, because it was spring 2023 and I knew we were about to go on strike, and they were suddenly looking at this whole
Mm.
summer and months ahead of like no work. No, they're here, they were graduating, and
They're about to
there
move
was not
out.
going to be any work. No production work, no PA work, no getting coffee for somebody, nothing, right?
So what'd you tell them to
And
do instead while they waited?
I said, go get any kind of job, go do something interesting, keep writing, make some money, be like, do a job what Einstein's famous for saying, which is the best years of his life, or when he worked in the patent office. When get a
Mm.
job that's like not going to tax your brain at all, so that you can go home
Yeah.
and write, or you can wake up in the morning and write. And I encourage them to do that. And because I said, look, I'm sorry we're striking. Yes, did I vote to strike? Absolutely. Um, but what we're doing is we're paying it forward. I don't
Hmm.
know if the results of this strike are going to help me in my career or not, but I guarantee it's going to help you if you go into this business. And you're going to be grateful later. Not maybe not now, maybe not next year, but 2025, right?
Yeah.
And and that's kind of where we were at. And so as a result, now I'm seeing the latest news we're looking at. It's really like the number of TV shows that have been ordered by the networks and streaming shows is like cut in half. And
Hmm.
suddenly we're not seeing as much work for that. But was talking with a big screenwriter the other day, and he was saying like scripts are still fine. You know, feature scripts are still fine, and they're a
Okay.
great calling card. It's something you could always go out and make on your own. You get it into a festival, someone picks it up, and streaming channels are still going to be looking for that. So that's why this is a long-winded answer, but why I'm
Yeah.
thinking of shifting my advanced screenwriting class away from television and back into writing a feature script, but I'm going to have them write a low budget, high concept script, you know,
Hmm.
no more than 8 characters, no fantasy, no sci-fi, something really grounded, probably coming of age. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I'm a big, big believer that people have to write what they know. You have to write what
Hmm.
you know. And I tell my students, like, I'm not going to write a coming of age story anymore. That's not going to happen. I'm too far from that. But I can certainly write
I see.
about all kinds of other things and which are closer to where I'm at. Yeah.
Well, I like that because it encourages the individual to actually look at their vulnerabilities, which I guess I'm realizing as, now that I'm 30, is that when I
Oh
was
my God, you're
younger,
not 30. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
30. Yeah. Um, it was like starting off was just making stuff to make it because it was cool and it was exciting, but it was always like picking topics that had nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was cool. I mean, I remember with As Ever and my thesis, week 6, it was just about achieving something that there was a feeling. And there was
Mhm,
a feeling
mhm,
in the crowd at the campus center and when people were watching it, and it was alive
mhm,
somehow. But I wasn't able to articulate in any way what my actual views were on life and those sorts of things. So I think that now that I'm older and I've spent a lot of time looking inward, it's been what do I actually desire to do in life? What do I actually
mhm,
want to read? What do I actually like? What do I really connect with in terms of
mhm,
like myself and my values and my personality and things like that? And that has shifted my writing tremendously. I would say I'm
mhm,
finally writing like for me because I actually
mhm,
want to, I like myself now in a way I never had. And I actually want to
mhm,
share that. And that involves, identifying your vulnerabilities, which make you the wonderful human you are.
mhm, mhm.
So I
I
think it's
totally
cool that
agree with
you're in
that.
that spot where
Yeah,
you
and
do that with your own work.
I really push that a lot more on my students today of write the story that you want to see and also have something to say. Like, why are you writing this? It can't just be because, oh, it's funny, like stoner comedy, or oh, it's cool. Like that doesn't, it has to be about something. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying it has to be like an after school special or something, but, and not that you have to have this big message, but it needs to be about something that, like you're saying, that means something to you. And, you know, it's interesting hearing you talk about it. I think I have a better understanding of why this could be scary for my students because maybe obviously they're still figuring out who they are. Yeah. So
so
that's
do you,
interesting.
I wonder how the conversation unfolds though. Students, because I remember like in our classes, some students were very, I don't know, they were always able to articulate
Oh,
more than I could
absolutely.
in that way, and they knew a lot more of what they wanted to do. And for me, it was like excitement and wow and charisma were things that I could tap into, but I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't necessarily do those other things. I wonder how the conversation in the class can support that.
Mm-hmm.
Because not
Um,
everybody wants to share their drafts. I mean, I remember some people being like, let's read mine every day. And other people were like, I don't want you to see
yeah.
a single word that I've written.
Yeah. So this is where COVID was helpful because we were online and we were in Zoom. And so putting people into those chat rooms allowed them to be
Oh.
more vulnerable because they were only with, say, two other people. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as scary. And since then, now that we workshop certain things, I have them workshop stuff in smaller groups, certain projects, not everything, but so
That's
we're not
interesting.
always doing like a full class because I agree, a whole class thing is intimidating. And whereas if you get in a small group, and I especially do this for my intermediate and advanced class,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes too wheeled, there's too much to look at for the whole class. So there are at least 3 or 4 people that intimately know their projects throughout the entire semester. And then now and then we break into the whole class, but a lot of times we spend in small groups. And I try to identify who would work better with whom. So it's not random. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a lot of times I think like, well, maybe I'll put people writing similar genres together, and that can be helpful. But then I'll also try to think like, who seems more vulnerable? Who can I put together? Who could help somebody else? So, and then sometimes I even put like all the loudmouths together just because then they're all together. And then
Right.
the people that are a little more shy, they can't just opt out. Someone's got to talk, right? And then they are reach out to each other. So I think I've gotten better at that, and that's a case of just becoming a more experienced professor, I think, for me.
Sure.
But it's funny when I look back at the early years, I don't think I was all bad though, because I think I had this like huge exuberance and I was like, and I knew
Yeah,
nothing. And I remember asking Lee Wilson, I said like,
I think
or
you knew
Bob or
something.
somebody, I don't know, but I felt like, but I remember saying like, do you want to see my syllabus? And they're like, no, you know what you're doing. And I'm like, do I? I'm like, okay. And, and so it was, a lot of fun. I remember the early years were just so much fun because it was all new to me and it was just so exciting, right? And then
Hmm.
then I started to figure out like then it got a little more serious because I wanted to figure out how to be a better professor and then I might have gotten too serious and then now I've backed away and now I'm a good balance of have fun but serious. I have a new rule now where if it's late, it's a zero. And I've done that for like the last 5 years. So in your
Good.
career, I remember it used to be much more like lenient, like sure, turn it in when you need to, like or if it's late, don't worry. But then, but then,
I don't know. I
um,
have one memory of being in the library at like close to midnight and freaking out.
oh
Like I
no,
couldn't read or write at the level I needed to yet. So I'm just stressing out about 30 pages of a script. Like,
oh no, I'm sorry. I
no,
thought it was
no, it was
nicer then though.
it was
But
great.
maybe I had some deadlines,
Yeah,
but I came much tougher in years, and I just put in zero if it's late, and I'm like, there's a timestamp, it's a zero. So
yeah.
because I think it's important, and I've tried to teach professionalism and have fun, and I think there's a balance there. So yeah.
What do you find works when you're teaching professionalism to a
Mm.
student who's 18 or 19 and doesn't know that, like me, for example, like wearing hoodies and just like hanging out isn't quite, where we need to be. What's your
I
priorities? What are your priorities?
I I think what's happened with those particular students is that I will first I lay it on really heavy in the beginning that zero is zero is zero, and they get kind of afraid, and then inevitably there'll be someone who will come to me with like something horrible happened or something, and I'll be like, look, don't worry, that I know you were in the hospital, don't worry, or your grandma died and you had to suddenly leave, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll back off a little bit, and what I've said to people is especially if they're assignments where each sequence is getting graded and if they're falling behind, I will often said if I know if you're going to finish by the very end, I'll go back and look at some of those zeros, and just to let you know I'm not a total jerk, I will go back and change some of those grades, and that has been very, it helps them a lot to know that. But honestly, I
Yeah.
don't want to know that for everybody because typically, if you lay the rules down and you're very clear in the beginning, I would say 90% follow or even 95%. And that's rewarding because they're hitting their marks. And the big thing I try to let
Hmm.
them know is that especially with screenwriting, and I think this is important actually for students and for actually for anybody, for any kind of novice writing, there's this feeling that you have to get it perfect the first time. And so what happens is you write it and you keep rewriting it and you keep rewriting those same 3 pages. And that's a real danger. And that's something that
Hmm.
professionals we do not do. And there's also this little like critic on your shoulder who's like, as you're writing these first 3 pages, who's like, that sucks, that sucks, that sucks. And everybody has that. And I try to let them know that that's completely normal. But the reality is you've got to get something down, and you've got to get something down. My favorite thing is when students say to me like, oh, don't worry, I have it all in my head, I know how it's going to look on the page. I'm like, yeah, you have to
But
get
let's
it on the
get it
page
there.
because my big belief is rewrite screenwriting is rewriting, and this is so true. Any script I've ever had made into a movie has gone through at least 10, 12 drafts.
Oh,
Nobody gets it right on the first time. Nobody
yeah.
does. It's impossible. And because the reality is, even before you turn in your quote first draft to your producer or your agent or your executive, you've already rewritten it 5 times. And then they have notes, and then you rewrite it 2 more times, and then you submit it again, and then if you're lucky it gets greenlit, and then you have these actors come on board, and then they have certain needs, and then you keep rewriting it, and then the locations, you rewrite it for that, and then the executives come back in the studio and they're like, oh, we really need a laundry machine here because Maytag is going to be sponsoring this, and you need to like, oh, in the Reba
There's the whole
movie we
thing
had to
around.
put in something about Spotify, and we were like, oh, sure, that feels organic. Yeah. But you're doing these kind of things. So nothing is perfect. And so I try to get students out of that mindset that it's going to be perfect the first time, because I think if you know that, and can I curse on this?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay. If you know that there's going to be a shitty first draft, you feel better. You're like, it's a shitty first
Yeah.
draft. I'm just turning it in. I'm getting it in, and then we're going to go back and revise it. And usually there's always a period where we revise stuff in the class, especially in
That's
the
great.
upper division classes. And that's where professionalism comes in, and also where you're helping students who feel vulnerable, who are like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm not good at this." I'm like, guess what? Nobody's good at it. Nobody's good at it until you've done this 10,000 hours. I'm a big believer in Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote that
Hmm.
book about no one's an expert until they've done 10,000 times. And, students oftentimes think, and anybody, not just students, anybody will think like, oh, well, I'm just not good at this. Or then there's the reverse side where people come to you and they're like, I have a gift. I'm good at this. And you feel like telling them like,
Right.
no, you're not. You're not good at this, because, and that's okay. Like no one, and that's okay to admit you're bad at it. Like I'm there every time I rewrite a script, I'm like, oh, it's hard. Every time it's hard. But once you get that first draft done in, then you start to have fun. Then you start to rewrite it. Then you start to revise it.
Yeah.
And where I am with my novel right now, I've already revised it 5 times, and I'm now on the fifth
Wow. Good
draft.
for you.
And yeah, and I'm really having fun with it, and it's getting close. It's getting close
So
to
when you
going
talk about
out.
like the
So,
first shitty draft, you have this thing
hmm
out. You've done your 40 card outline, you understand the beats, and you just hit them as close as you can,
right, or you
and you
don't,
get
because
enough
what
in there.
happens is when
Okay.
when you're actually writing those pages, and you're like, oh, I need another character. Or like, oh, I just thought of a better
Mm,
idea, better way to do this. And I always tell students that's okay. Like, don't
okay.
feel like you're married to that for those 40 cards, because inevitably you're going to have a discovery period as you're going through. It's kind of a roadmap. And mm, what happens is, what I tell them is, the danger is, like, let's say you're on page 45 and you're like, oh, he's the villain. He's the villain. He's not really the good guy. And
Hmm.
you realize that. And what I say is, you put a pin in it. You put a note in your screenplay there, in like a little yellow tab or whatever the software offers.
Hmm.
And you, from that point forward, you make that character the villain. You don't go back. The
That was
danger
going to be
is
my question.
going
How do you approach
back.
that?
You
No
don't
going
do
back
that.
at all.
No, at all, until you get the first draft done. But you've put a pin, you put a note there. I'm on page 45. Okay, now Adam is the bad guy. And you make him the bad guy in all subsequent scenes, right? And
Yeah.
then you finish your first draft. You don't show it to anyone yet. You go back, you fix the early scenes. Now you introduce Adam as the villain, whatever, and you go on and so forth. Yeah. And that's what you do, because there's a real danger if you keep going back, you never finish it. And my favorite thing, you always see this in LA, is everyone's working on a screenplay. And in New York, everyone's working on a novel. And you just wonder, like, how far in are they? You got to finish it. You have to
Yeah.
finish it. And then you can start to revise it. And and the outline helps you because it helps to pace yourself. So in screenwriting,
Hmm.
typically, I want to say we would write like a scene or two a day, and that's it. And then the next day you start and you go back and you revise that scene, and then you write new stuff. The next day you revise it, you go back and new stuff, and you keep going forward. And the same
That's
thing
cool.
with a novel, uh, because don't forget, I'm writing while I'm also teaching full time. So I teach 3 days a week. I write my own stuff 4 days a week, and so
That's a great schedule.
I yeah, you kind of have to
Busy.
write every day, And I think
Hmm.
here's my other big tip. This is my other big tip that I've realized over the years. I think when you're starting out, you have this feeling of, oh, I want to be a writer and I need to write 8 hours a day. And that just doesn't happen. And no writer does that. And the reality is, if you write one really good hour a day or one half hour a day, you're done. You're done. You don't need that much more. And
Hmm.
on the good days, you'll write longer. Like today, how much did I write today? I think I wrote 3 really good hours. So that was longer because it was a Saturday and I knew I had to talk to you and do some other stuff.
That's creative work
Um,
too. That's good.
but yeah, and 3 hours was great. There's some new good stuff. I'm rewriting an existing chapter but that's it. And I feel good about it. And then tomorrow I'll probably write I'll try to write 5 hours tomorrow because then I know Monday I'm only going to write like 30 minutes. But the point is, you have to write a little something every day. And that's where the outline helps you because you're not just
Hmm.
writing blind. And whether you're writing a screenplay or you're writing a novel, you can look at your outline and see it, whether it's on a corkboard or it's on your computer. I use Trello
With your
a lot
Trello boards.
now. Yeah, I don't know if I did that with you guys. Did I? I don't think
You
I did
did. Yeah, you
Trello.
did.
I did.
Yeah.
Wow, I was ahead of the game. You know what? Maybe
Yeah.
I was more with it than I
I think you were
remembered.
more with it. Yeah.
I don't know. But now, ever since COVID, I have this like huge whiteboard, and it's like
Cool.
literally like you can't see mine. It's like 5 by 5, and it has all the outline stuff for my current novel, and now it has all the notes that and it's
Hmm.
very rewarding because I'm one of these people that's like a completer, and you have to like know who you are as a writer, and so I list the day what I need to do on each day in terms of what I'm doing, what rewrite notes, and then
Okay.
I check it off as I do it. I take my little red
That's cool. That's
uh,
funny.
marker and I like put a little check mark, and I'm like, I did that. Now I can go on and go watch TV or read a book or go walk my dog or go to the movies or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
you have to do that because when I don't write, then I feel really bad and then I just spiral and I go in this deep hole and you're like, I haven't written for a week. Now I haven't written for 2 weeks. Like, oh, and
Yeah.
and even a little something that I when I even if I like rough something out and then I'll go back later, I'm like, well, that wasn't bad. There's like 3 words I can keep, or no, a sentence. So yeah,
Well, I like the
that's
perspective that you have now.
yes.
20 years ago, or like when you were starting.
Oh yeah, did I
How
do
did you
that?
figure this out? How did you figure this out? Because you were at NYU, you were making films, and then you're writing bigger works. That was that an awkward transition? Was that a tough period where you had to figure out this stuff?
I think
Because
I
you have
think
such a
I
good
was
attitude. Wonder how that came to
yeah,
be.
thank you. Well, I think I was lucky. Well, I was smart. So when I was at NYU doing my thesis film, I realized I don't think I want to be a director because I'd kind of seen the
Hmm.
process and I'd gone to NYU thinking I wanted to direct because I'd done some documentaries and I really enjoyed it. And I
Weren't you
think
shooting
I
prison movies? Like, wasn't that was something you said once? There were a lot of films that you shot in jails or something. Or
I
is that
did.
some-
I don't think that was
I don't
me,
know.
Jordan. That's someone else. I
That's funny.
No, that's not me. That's funny. That's me. Um, I realized I preferred to write,
When you're writing more, yeah.
and then also while I was still at NYU finishing my thesis, I went over to Tribeca Film Center, and they'd had this
Okay.
ad up for they were brand new, and it was De Niro's company was there, and they were filling the building, and they needed like an admin to help out with I don't talk about this that much. They needed an admin to help out with like the building and like kind of like real estate type stuff. And I'm like, sure, I'll do that. I don't know if I was even getting paid. Was I getting paid?
Hmm.
Gosh, isn't that weird? I can't remember if I was getting paid or not. Maybe I was. But anyway, and I was working for this woman. I didn't particularly like the job, but I knew I was in the building. I was in the right place. And so I was
Yeah.
sharing an office with the woman who was reading all the scripts and doing all the script coverage. What was her name? Barlow. Anyway, and I was like, hey, hi, I'm Julie. I'd like to do that. And she said, great, you can read these scripts. And she taught me how to do script coverage. And I started to do that in conjunction with my other job. And I started reading
Oh.
scripts that were being submitted for De Niro. And meanwhile, my husband was working for a big screenwriter out in New Jersey. Andy Breckman, who went on to create Monk and was writing all these big movies. And so together we had this shared knowledge that he was working for a big screenwriter and he could see how it was being done. I was on
Hmm.
the other end. I was reading all these bad scripts that were being submitted by CAA and ICM and William Morris and thinking
Okay.
like, how do these horrible screenwriters, how do these scripts get representation? Like these are bad. And I started to see how it worked. And so together
Mm.
we thought, well, let's write this movie together. We had like, again, one idea. And that's usually what it takes for us, one idea. And it was a modern day Romeo and Juliet, which was called Verona, which later became what's now known as Pizza My Heart. 12 years later, it was sold and was made. But we
Oh, wow.
literally, I kid you not, Jordan, we wrote that script on this like little computer as we were driving cross country in our U-Haul with like all of our worldly belongings because we decided we need to move to LA. This was right after graduating from film school. And we got there
That's cool.
and we knew I had a couple contacts. One person I knew from NYU who was already working in the business. Her name was Claire, lovely person. And she said, sure, I'll look at your script and the Verona script. And she goes, okay, well, I see some promise, but it needs work. And so we took her notes, worked with her, and we said, and she was going to have her boss, Gary Foster, take it out. And they had just sold While You Were Sleeping, big movie, rom
Okay.
com. And, uh, and so we said, okay, this is great. You can take it out. But we were smart enough to say, like, if you do this, you've got to help us get an agent. And that's what she did.
Smart.
And from there, we got our first agent. So we had our first agent within 5 months of arriving in LA. And we didn't know at the
Wow.
time that that was relatively fast. We were like, oh, this is taking forever. And, but, and that script went out. A lot of people loved it. We had a lot of meetings, but nobody bought it. And from
Hmm.
there, we had a lot of meetings, and a lot of those meetings became how we ended up writing the Tarzan movie and selling it and getting a credit
All right.
on that. And from there, we were writing a spec script that we sold then another 2 years. Let's see, did we sell it in 2 years? Yeah. So 2 years within arriving, and we sold it to Bette Midler. And that was something called Welcome to the Family. And it never got made, but it kept getting resold and resold. And you can see how this works. Like we had a career for a while, and eventually we started to get frustrated that our feature scripts we were getting paid for them, and that was nice, but they weren't getting made, and so
Mm.
that's when we shifted gears to television writing, and very quickly had a movie made called Noah that was with Tony Danza. It was a modern day telling of Noah's Ark,
Mhm.
and then from there. I feel like there were some ebbs and flows, but we were always able to like kind of keep it going. And we had two kids during that period, crazy times. And
Yeah.
then Pizza My Heart came back, and then we did Return to Halloweentown, and then the strike hit, 2007, and then that's when
Hmm.
we were in our 40s, and we were kind of like, ooh, this seems sort of scary. What's going to happen? And we remembered we had these MFAs from NYU, and we thought, let's maybe we should become teachers and professors. And I taught a couple classes at UCLA, and Keith was already ahead of me teaching a bunch. And we thought, this is kind of fun. And literally, as we were driving cross country, the guy that heads up SU, the Newhouse School,
Hmm.
reached out to me and goes, it was 2 weeks before the fall semester started. He goes, do you want to teach a class? And I'm like, okay, because I thought I was moving to Syracuse and I was going to kind of figure out what to do. And my husband had a tenure
Mm.
track job, and we still had a daughter who was at home in high school,
Oh, right.
starting high
Yeah.
school. And I was like, and we were still talking about writing together. We were going to see how it went. And so I taught these classes at SU and discovered that I loved it. And then a job opportunity came up at Oswego, and I got that. And then I started there at 2012, and that's when I met you. That was in that fall, in that crazy class, which was so much fun. And that's when I discovered that I really liked it. And so you can see, and my older daughter, she's just like rolling her eyes. She's like, "You are the accidental professor," because I literally just sort of fell into it
Kind of.
and discovered I liked it. And I think I was lucky in that I had what they were looking for. I had these credits. I was coming from
Hmm.
industry, so I knew how to write a screenplay, but my next challenge was to try to figure out how to teach it. And I think I figured that out now. But initially
Hmm.
that was something because, and then I, like I said in the very beginning of this podcast, was then I learned like the true gift of teaching, which is by talking about it all day long. You become better at doing it, and
Yeah.
that's been a real blessing. And now I've discovered novel writing too, which is I love all writing. I think it's great. And I encourage
I mean,
students
if
to
you
do
could deal
both.
with the
Yeah.
frustrations, if you could deal with the frustrations of like waiting for scripts to get made,
Well,
I'm
that's
sure you could
that's
deal with
yeah.
a semester. I mean, in and out, the problems have to be dealt with, and before they move on, and the next group comes in. A script waiting 12 years for a script. How
Well,
did
to
you?
be honest, we forgot about it. We forgot about it. And that's the thing is you have to keep writing. You keep churning stuff out. You put it out there. If it doesn't go, it may go later. You kind of forget
Yeah.
about it. And in a weird sense, there's there's another old script of ours that might get made in India. And that's weird. And there's like
Huh.
things are
Okay.
if you when you write
Oh.
something, you own the rights to it and you own it forever until
Hmm.
someone buys it. And so that's the nice thing. And the thing I recommend to people is not to get stuck on one script and be like
Yeah.
revising it forever. Because trust me, we have done that. We did that.
Wow,
There was,
dude.
I want to say, like in the middle of our career, we were like try to revise an old script, and we realized like, no, you can never like hit that lightning in a bottle twice. You've got to be like, that was for that period of time. Now we're going to go on. Now, 12 years later,
Yeah.
though, having said that, we did revise that script, but only because someone was paying us. Someone was like, here's the
What's a new
contract.
catalyst? There's a new
Yeah,
reason.
we're paying you now.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll rewrite that. We'll change
So you
that
probably
up a little
love the
bit.
deadlines of like the agencies or like whatever the publication house is like. Those are
Hmm.
probably fantastic to have. When you don't have
Those
those, can you write? Can you get stuff done and finish it? Like
Absolutely,
you do.
yeah. No, you
Yeah.
have to self-generate it, and you have to sort of tell yourself. And so, writing a script, I think, should take place in 6 months, and writing a novel can take place in a year, maybe a year and a
Hmm.
half. The first
Yeah.
novel could be a year and a half.
You
And
gotta
I
move
think
on.
if it's taking longer than that, maybe you're not writing the right thing, and you have to just
Yeah.
cut your losses and start over. I'm also a believer that you should try not to be writing more than one thing at once. You can have a new idea and have something
That's a good
percolating,
one.
but don't try to. And I said this as I was working on this novel. I remember saying to my husband, I'm not going to write on two things at once. So I'm going to finish a draft of the novel. Then I can go back and work on the script with you. Once that script is finished, then I can go back and work on the. You know what? You can't do both at once. And I used to think I could, and I don't think it's a good idea. But what I hope you understand what I'm saying is you can still have. There's my dog here. Multiple ideas percolating. That's good, right?
Yeah.
And I'm right now thinking about something for a later novel, and I just like jot down ideas, but I'm not writing it in any shape or form. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I mean, that's something that took me years to learn, and I'm still learning it. The big part of me wants to be juggling tons of projects and doing lots and lots of things. But let's be honest, with a full time job and other things that I'm doing, like if I can get in an hour of writing a day,
That's enough. That's all you
that's great.
need.
And it's
And
enough. Like that happened yesterday. I was like,
yeah.
just the end of the week and I'm burnt out. And I was like, what do I do? I know what I have to do. I have to,
Hmm.
like, nourish myself.
Hmm.
Just wrote for an hour, forced myself to do it.
Right.
And it was like
Right.
serotonin for the next 4 hours. It was great.
Bingo. That's
The
exactly
body
it.
completely changes. Like everything was just different. And it was
Absolutely.
only an hour.
Jordan, that's all you need. All you need is an
Mm-hmm.
hour. And trust me, because you will, after an hour, things kind of go bad. Even if you had more time, things
Yeah.
start to go bad. And then you hate yourself and you're better off
Well, you leave
coming in strong.
frustrated and
Yeah.
bitter.
Yeah, but I would say just focus on one project at a time and complete it and then
Yeah.
go do the next thing. And so this is why I think I don't get as frustrated waiting because I know that I finish one thing, then I hand it off, and I'm not sitting around like, oh, what do they think? What do they think? I'm already working on this other thing and I'm like, oh, I'll wait. They'll get back to me eventually. Could be two
Hmm.
weeks, could be a month, whatever. And in the meantime, I'm powering ahead on something else. And that's
Yeah.
way you can get rid of that frustration. And because you have to put yourself in their shoes too. Agents have a lot of clients. Producers have a lot of projects they have to look at. Sometimes it's a timing. Right now, film business seems really slow right now because we're still dealing with the reverberations of the strikes, and now the potential of, is IATSE going to go on strike this summer? And we're dealing with that, but things will come back. I'm optimistic they will, because people want entertainment. But so you just have to do your part
Yeah.
and just like keep writing, keep powering through, and knowing that when the time is right, you'll say like, I've got something ready. Whereas if you're trying to write a TV show and a book and a short film, you can't do it all. Like, nobody, professionals
Well, because
don't.
you can't share that. Like, oh yeah, I've got bits and pieces of a thing I'm working
No.
on. It's like, how many times have you heard that in your career?
Oh,
Like,
too
you
many.
can't take it
Yeah.
seriously. It's like bits and
No.
pieces, and then I felt like it's like, oh well, I don't take anybody else seriously that says that, so I don't take myself seriously. Why am I
No.
sabotaging in these ways? It's because it's
So
like
what are you
I'm not
working on
ready to
right
like
now,
step in.
Jordan? What are you working
So
on right
I'm
now?
writing my book again. I put
Oh,
it
good.
away a couple years
Okay.
ago. I really put it away. I was just like, I can't anymore. Like I was doing that thing of rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and
Oh.
getting completely burnt out and put it away. And now I'm getting back into it. And what's nice is there's just a lot of idea. The Aurora, like, which was the
Mhm.
Aurora fantasy script and
Mhm.
stuff. There's just so many ideas of like spirituality and healing and life lessons and stuff that
Mhm.
I now see why I couldn't do it at that time. Like, it was me
That's
wanting to
fair.
grow and
Yeah.
do something really powerful, but I wasn't that person yet. I hadn't, you know, taken things off my shoulders and off my chest yet. So
Mhm.
now it's like I'm going into it and I'm not letting myself look at any of the notes. I mean, I have
Okay.
stacks and stacks of notes. I'm not allowing myself to look at them. If I can
Mhm.
remember it, like it's got to
Mhm.
feel like a dream.
Mhm. Are you
Things are going to
rewriting
change
like,
and things are going to be different, but I just have to go with it.
how many pages is it, or how many words is it right now in its current
I
version?
wrote about I wrote about 200 and some that were good.
Oh my God, this is the difference between fantasy. I
And
thought
I wrote
fantasy is supposed
a
to be a
lot more
hundred
than that.
thousand. Oh my God, Jordan. Okay, okay. So I thought fantasy was supposed to be 125,000. That's it.
Well, wait, 200 pages. So not words.
Oh,
Not 200,000
oh,
words.
oh,
No, no,
only
no. I
200
was just trying to
pages.
like yeah, I was
Oh,
trying to
you need
cap
a
it
lot
like
more. You need
yeah.
350 words. Sorry, 350 pages. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but that was the
Well,
thing. I kept like getting blocked in like, where all stories go to die in like the midpoint,
yeah,
right? And so like I could see
yeah.
the bigger points, but so anyways, like that's finally feeling good and my co-writer Amanda Bentz and I are writing a big feature length podcast, which is this big epic
I
sort of like
remember this. This
parallel
was a good
historical
idea.
piece.
Wait, but you're
Oh
not
yeah, I
trying to
was
do
telling you
both at the
about that.
same time, are you?
We just have meetings on Mondays. We just talk after work and
Mm-hmm.
we're really just trying to like chip away and have fun with it.
Okay.
So those things I'm juggling, but I'm really like, I guess I'm just at this place where I see all the shiny objects of like, oh, I want to write
Mm-hmm.
this feature, or oh, I want to write these short stories, and it's like, for my
You
own good, I
can't.
literally can't even touch them. It's like
Mm-hmm.
walk away. Like I know it could be cool, but the writer who finishes these big projects
Mm-hmm.
can write those things. I don't think
Yeah.
big
You
projects,
just
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 project.
write it down and leave it in your well on your computer. But you should try to finish your book. And I mean, what I do is read it through in one sitting if you can. And like, if you have a weekend, if you have those
That's
200
good.
pages, sit down and read it through in one sitting, and mark it up or edit it as you go. And
Mm-hmm.
then you'll be like, okay, I know where I need to add on to this, because it sounds to me like it's coming in way too short if it's a fantasy
At this
healing.
point, yeah. So now it's filling it up and like I guess
Is
having
it
the
a
confidence to fill it up.
is it a YA, or is it adult? Is it
It's like a
sci-fi?
middle grade. It's a middle
Oh,
grade.
it's a middle grade. Oh, then 200 pages is
Yeah,
perfect. Oh my
like the
God.
Golden Compass kind of.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
so
Yeah.
it could work. Yeah, so like I'm feeling really optimistic about it, and
Oh, that's good.
it's
That's
just
good.
been a wonderful like change of pace.
Yeah.
Because I really just want to see it, come to life and just
Right.
experiencing it. I mean, my aunt, who's a singer songwriter, she has this like quote that she's like, "You have to look at these ideas as like they're beautiful, but they're not precious. it's this collection of beautiful ideas, but you
Yeah.
can't hold on to one or two ideas and be like, this is everything. Because it's
No.
not. It's
No.
having tons of ridiculous ideas, you stitch them
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
even if I'm realizing, like, even if it's something really serious, because you know me with like shooting my dramas and stuff, like I love that
Right.
stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm at this point where like if I can't chuckle about like how strange certain situations can be, even if they're dramatic, like it's just not hitting the right points for me,
Mm-hmm.
in that stitching of it all.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're on a good path right now. That's important. And I would say like
I
give
think so.
yourself a deadline of a month to finish that and then think about who you could give it to for notes, not your own notes, for someone who do you trust to get notes from on this book. I mean that's the other thing because you were saying what do you do if you don't have real deadlines, from a publisher, an agent or
Yeah.
whomever, and you have to fabricate them for yourself. But they have to be realistic. And so if you already have 200 pages, and I know you
Hmm.
work full time, you work 40 hours a week, but I think you could have in a month, um, be ready and think about who you're going to pass it on
Good
to.
challenge.
What?
That's a
Yeah.
good challenge. Okay, well then that's it. So from the day this, well actually from the day that this airs,
Right. Right.
I'll give
Uh,
myself
and
a month.
and
I
think
love
about
that.
give it to one person that you value
Hmm.
their opinion, and then you tell them, I'll give you a month to give me the notes, and don't expect it overnight. And during that period,
Right.
while they're doing the notes, then you work on your podcast thing, and you stop thinking about that. Sorry. You go home and you work on your book. And I really think you want to sit down and read through the whole thing. And you may have to stay up late one night. And it's probably on Word, right? Because this is what I did
Google Docs.
as
Yeah.
I was, yeah, getting closer to giving it to someone. And it's the scariest thing when you finally pass it on. And you just, but you've got to do it. And then you'll get some notes from them and you'll make those notes and then you'll give it to
Hmm.
somebody else. See if you can think of an author who's published or someone you respect or a classmate, someone
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Um, Someone who knows that genre is what I'm going to say. Like, I don't know that
Right.
genre, so I'm a bad person, but there's going to be someone else who does. Or I would say
Good
not
idea.
family members. Don't, because they'll be like, "Oh, Jordan, it's great." And like you can't
I
trust
do have
fam.
to say, I did
You
give
can't
what I
trust
could to
family.
my parents, and I
Oh
know that I
no.
couldn't trust them, but it was like finally I had someone to talk to
Yeah.
about these things, these spiritual ideas and all these
Give it
things,
to
which
Melina.
that
Give it
was
to
cool.
Melina. See what
Yeah.
Melina says. Maybe she'll take a look at it and tell her I just need you to read it and give me your gut and give me some page notes or some overall thoughts and I'll give you a month. And if people know they have a month, you got to give them a deadline too. That's something I
Hmm.
learned. And then you'll get it. And then you'll be like, and then I'm also a big believer. Oh, I have to go. I'm a big believer. You have to step back when you finish something. Step back for a few weeks. Don't work on it. Go do something else. That's when I went and did my screenplay. Then you
Yeah.
come back to it and you're like, oh, I see what they're saying. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to change that. And you feel a sense of accomplishment and then you'll give it to someone else and then it's someone else. So,
Well, I think that taking the step back and doing other things is just something that I remember that you've always done, which was like
mm-hmm.
you're fully saturated in the things that you do, and it seems like you really love them. But you
Yeah.
go and you do other things, like you have a family, you have a
Oh,
life, you
yeah. I
travel.
travel. I went to
Did you see the
Antarctica.
Northern Lights? Where were you?
I was in
You in
Antarctica.
Antarctica?
Yeah. I
Okay,
was in
so the Southern
Antarctica.
Lights.
Yeah,
Did you
that's.
see?
I did not see the Northern Lights because it was summer there, but I saw
No.
a lot of penguins, a lot of seals, a lot of whales, a lot of icebergs. I was tromping around on the Antarctic coast, and then literally 3 weeks later, Jordan, I was skiing in Zermatt, Switzerland, and that was amazing. And now I'm planning. I
So
have a
it
big.
sounds like you figured some things out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and I'm going to Quebec this summer, and then I'm going to the Baltic Sea. I'm going to go to Finland. Where am I going this summer?
Oh,
Wait, I'm not going to Iceland. I'm going to Finland, Latvia, Sweden,
oh my
Denmark,
gosh.
Norway, somewhere else. Anyway, with my dad and my sister, and we're going on a big like Baltic Sea cruise. So I love to travel. I do stuff. I take my iPad or my laptop with me, depending on what it is, and that way I can do like a little work there or not. Sometimes I just say like I'm not going to work for a week, but when I'm home,
That's
I
great.
try to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's so fun. It's so funny. I thought I couldn't talk for an hour, and look at me. I feel like I've sucked up all the air in this thing. I'm sorry.
No, you were fantastic. I knew you'd have a lot to say, and that's why you're
I know.
here.
I remember I was like,
I
"Oh, we
learned
can do
so
this in."
much.
I was like, "We can do this in 20 minutes, Jordan." Jordan's like, "No, we
And
need
I'm
an
like,
hour," and I'm like, "I don't think so."
well, just pass the vibe check of will Jordan learn things? I mean, that's the
Okay.
whole point of this project. Like, I want to
Okay.
learn all these cool things, and I feel like I've learned so much. So if I've
Oh,
learned so
thank
much,
you.
I
Thank
just
you.
cannot wait for everyone else's reaction. And,
Oh, thank you. And
you
I
know,
learned a lot from you, Jordan. So thank you. You were very helpful in those early years. So thank
we
you.
done good. We done
Yeah.
good.
All right. Well,
Well, I
thank you
can't wait
so
to have you
much.
back when you have your next project out. We can talk about
Okay.
that. We can talk about that whole process,
Be 2
whatever it
years.
is.
Okay, or 1 year. We'll see. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jordan.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's so
you.
great to see you. And it sounds like you're doing great. Very proud of you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me under the Northern Lights once again. I look forward to sharing more Aurora energy with you all. Stay tuned. Keep an eye to the skies for our upcoming transmissions. In the meantime, please take just 20 seconds to give us a 5-star review. It'll help us grow and share our light with the world. It really will. And join us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook to stay in the loop with all that is to come. I'll see you soon.